Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Gould, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town.
Mike Freeman, we just finished some time with Rajiv, your friend, who now I feel like I've known him forever because it was an unbelievable conversation. I loved every minute of it. I feel like I created a list for myself of things I need to do in order to be better, and I want to be like Rajiv when I grow up, right? And
who doesn't?
So tell me,
who doesn't?
Yeah, right? So talk to me about your takeaways with Rajiv.
Yeah, so Rajiv Patnaik and I have been friends for several years. We've had the opportunity to work on a couple of passion projects, trying to help out, at-risk youth here in the Reading area. Everybody that knows Rajiv loves Rajiv. You've felt his heart, you felt his passion and the cause that he has dedicated his life to, of trying to make a difference, especially in the lives of young people. What the listeners are going to get out of this episode is a crazy journey, unscripted journey of how Rajiv became the man, the father, the husband that he is today. And I really enjoyed the ride.
Yeah, I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, some things that stood out to me were the word decisions, the word intentional, right? The word passion. I mean, these are all things that Rajiv is all about. And I would hope that if you're listening to the podcast with Rajiv, you sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and you take copious notes, because this guy's dropping some science that you don't want to miss out on.
When I think every episode, it seems like I can easily say, as you sit and listen, you will feel something. Do what it's telling you to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And
You're going to get that. You're going to get that urge, that prompting to pick up and call a friend, or pick up and go visit this, or spend time with kids, or whatever, because the formula that Rajiv paints for that richest man in town, I mean, it's coming to you with an India background. And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter where you are, right? There's a pattern for living this kind of life that we're seeking after, and Rajiv does a great job of teaching us some things.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we've always wanted with this project is, no matter who we talk to, that we walk away recognizing how similar we are, right? And how we're kind of on the same path together. And I think Rajiv did a great job of pointing that out tonight. So you dropped the key words here, Mike. The passive time is over, right? We've spent an hour and plus with Rajiv. Now it's time to go take action and do something. If you don't
mind me sharing the after notes, right? After we're done with Rajiv, you and I are looking at each other and we're moved.
Yeah.
We're moved, and it's actually an emotional moment. And you who don't know, Rajiv is my guest to this program.
Right.
You met him in a pre-show call, and you say to me, I love that guy and I'd go to war with him.
Yeah.
Right? That's what this is about. That's what this is about.
Yep, that's it. So listen, let's make sure that our listeners take a minute, check us out on Facebook, right? Look at our social media, but please, if you enjoy the show, give us a rating on iTunes and Spotify and all those other good places that you listen to the podcast. Let's take action. Let's be better people. Enjoy Rajiv.
So I raised my kids on hot dogs, and I'm craving for a hot dog, right? So I get some Hebrew Nationals, throw them on the barbecue, and they won't touch them.
Dude,
they won't have anything to do with hot dogs. What's going on with hot dogs?
I don't know. My kids are hot dog snobs, man. They won't even touch them either.
That's crazy.
And look, the other day, you and I played a round of golf, right?
True story. It was ugly, man. That was ugly.
I'm gonna give you the warts and all, because the first 9 holes of this golf course, I shot a 61. Like, it's unprecedented, man. It was brutal. We make the turn at 9. I'm seething. I really don't even want to play golf anymore, like ever. And we go into the snack shop, and
But hey, I want to tell you something. Not one cuss word came out of your mouth, man.
No, but they were swirling. They were swirling. So we go to the snack bar, and I have a hot dog, because that's really all they have in the COVID-19 world that we're in. So I have a hot dog. And it
was like a bar-ass hot dog, man. It was not like an amazing Costco hot dog.
No, it was like, you need sustenance, you better just put this down, and this will do it. So I ate that hot dog, and I'm proud to report that I shot a 43 on the back.
And that was low back 9. That was low score. So I mean, technically you won the. And I would like to share that I freaking shot a 66 on the back.
Well, we switched positions. I was telling you.
You know why? You know why? Because I went Polish dog, dude.
See, that's it. You should have gone just the straight up goo in a tube. Yeah, my kids were touching on.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's funny because even now I'll go to like a baseball game, or again, pre-COVID-19, I would go to like a Padres game or something with my kids, and I'm psyched because I'm like, we're going to a baseball game and I'm going to have a hot dog, because that's what you have at a baseball game. My kids won't touch them.
Yeah. You know what though? I'm at this stage, more for me, you know?
Amen.
I threw it on there. More for me. You're not going to touch it. Fantastic. I'm going to have hot dogs every night.
Exactly.
Hot dogs, eggnog. I'm just getting a list of things only dad likes. And it's going to be.
That's on my list too. Yeah.
The fridge is going to be full of those things.
I just, to be honest with you, since I became a father, it was just like, it's just been a hunt for things that my kids won't eat. So I'm eating the worst things possible just to try to keep myself, get some food in the fridge that has my name on it, you know?
True story. Hey, on a serious note, lots to talk about, lots of things. I don't know if there's something you want to throw out there. I've got a stack of things here, man.
Yeah, well, go ahead. Get us rolling.
How about this hypothetical, right? This hypothetical? Real quick, Rajiv's going to be joining us any minute, right? Rajiv Patnaik, really excited about having him on the program. Looking forward to learning from him. So check this out. Brendon Burchard posted this, and I love the hypothetical. I'm going to throw it out to you. Okay. If your future best self, a version of you 10 years older, who's even stronger, more capable, and more successful than you imagined yourself to be, showed up on your doorstep today, in this moment, and looked at your current circumstances, what courageous action would that future self advise you to take right away to change your life? And how would your future self tell you to live right now? Ooh, the essence of the show.
Right. You know, that's a hard thing to. It's a hard hypothetical. I don't know how to answer that, to be honest.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that future self would tell you something big to do? Or would it be, hey, do this small thing and just start doing it?
That was sort of my thought as that I don't think there's this one thing that if you do this thing, right? It's like what was the movie with Billy Crystal? If you do the one thing, right? You find
City Slickers.
There we go. City Slickers. We're dropping some serious references tonight. But I think it's more of what are the series of small things that you can do to kind of fine tune things. I mean, I hope that's where I'm at, that I'm fine tuning a little bit, right? And I'm not right now trying to make these drastic changes. What's up, Rajiv?
Rajiv, welcome to the richest man in town. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. I got a hypothetical I just threw out at Tyler. Let me throw this out at you. It comes from a guy I follow, Brendon Burchard. I don't know if you follow him, but he throws this out there. I'm going to throw it your way. Okay. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Sorry, man. I hate for you to just drop in and for us to like dive bomb on you, but really you've only missed a passionate conversation about hot dogs and this prompt. What's your take on hot dogs?
Yeah. We never really had hot dogs in India, so yeah.
So is that an acquired taste that you just haven't acquired, or what?
Yeah, they're good. It just a lot of times they give me indigestion.
Man, you talk
all those
about
nitrates, man.
Yeah, that list is getting longer. The things that give me indigestion these days is getting longer. I think I've got in my mind all things that are red. Tomatoes, red Slurpee, right?
the red vine, is that on the list?
the red vine, all things red. I don't know. I'm weird. Okay, Rajiv, you ready for this?
I am.
Okay, if your future best self, a version of you 10 years older, who's even stronger, more capable, and more successful than you imagined yourself to be, showed up on your doorstep today and looked at your current circumstances, what courageous action would that future self advise you to take right away to change your life? How would your future self tell you to live?
Wow. That's a pretty deep. Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, right. So Tyler skillfully dodged that one a little bit, just with a little bit of a hesitation, and then I just prompted with maybe not specifically what courageous action, but do you think it would be a huge thing or a little thing that future self would tell you to start doing?
Well, I'd hope it'd be a huge thing, because 10 years, you gotta have change, man.
There better be, right?
Better be a lot of change, and I better be, 10 years a lot further where I am today, So I
but I ask you, but okay, so I get that, I get the huge thing, but what if you had a faucet that was dripping on a rock for 10 years? What would that change? How would that change that rock?
Yeah.
Right. Have you ever been to the Grand Canyon? You've ever been to Bryce Canyon, and you look at these things and it's like little things over time might be an answer.
Yeah,
right?
no, and I think it is. And I think like it kind of part of my story, I think, is the fact that like my biggest fear is failure, and I think the steps of taking small steps of courage in terms of like going in the direction of discomfort and unknown, where things are unknown. I think that's what I think. Courage is not a big thing. It's the small steps in the right direction, and the way you make a muscle grow is you keep tearing it, but you tear it slowly. If you tear it all the way, you get you get injury, but it's small tears that make a muscle grow. So I think that's part of kind of where I am. I think is this whole idea of, hey, being in that discomfort and being, fearing the unknown, but realizing that growth happens in that spot, and I think those are the small steps that I'd hope they tell me to do.
Yeah, and unknown's a big deal right now, right?
Yeah, and Rajiv, you mentioned, so you're mentioning your kind of your story. I mean, give us a little bit of who you are and what your background is and what led you to where you are today. Let's get a
sure. And you said I have 2 hours for this question, or
well, yeah, this one's 2 minutes. You got to be quick, but no, fill us in. We got to get to know you.
So it's just, I mean, I think the elevator speech for me, my name is Rajiv, and I'm a father, I'm a stepdad, I'm a husband. I'm originally from India, but I've been a native Californian for the last 32 years.
You're in.
What's that?
You're in.
I've been, yes. I am a Christian, and my faith's important to me. I love helping people, and I'm passionate about helping people that are less fortunate than I am. And this is something that's a recent passion for mine. I've never had that for many years, and that's part of my story, but we can talk about that later on. But that's something that just recently, the last, I think, 10 years, I think, that passion came about. So I love to travel. I love to travel with my kids. I love photography. I love mountains. I think I'm pretty darn hilarious. And,
you know what? As long as you think so, that's all that matters, right? That's all that matters.
a lot of times when people...
Speaking of hilarious, Rajiv, when I reach out to you and I invite you on a show called Richest Men in Town,
yeah,
what thought runs through your head when that happens?
So here's the raw thing, Mike. I've known you for a long time, and the first thing that came to me was like I was sorrowful, I was sad, I was depressed, because I'm like, Mike, a couple of months ago was just really, really excited. He's like, oh, I'm doing this show, Richest Man in Town, and here I'm waiting for the call. I'm okay, the first guest I'm gonna have is gonna be me. And here I go, I'm on episode 6,
Who's counting, Rajiv? Really, we're just rolling, man.
Hey, you have to understand the learning curve for us. Not that we don't know what the heck we're doing right now anyways, but we figured,
I'm just kidding.
Let's get some people that know us and we'll put up with some stuff. And then now, so you should be honored because we kind of have our act together. Maybe not really,
but
no. To that question, I think I feel really, really honored. And Mike, I have a high respect for you, and you put enough equity in my life so that when you ask me that question and want me to do it, I'm like, oh my goodness, I would love to do it, and it's an honor and a privilege. So. I am.
Well, the honor's ours, Tyler.
I know it's not about material riches because I don't have that. So it's got to be something else. So we'll figure out what that is by the end of this show, hopefully.
Yeah. So Tyler, I am so excited to have Rajiv. Rajiv's a dear friend of mine. There are lots of things that I love about this guy. But when you get around Rajiv, you see the world as a place that you want to change. He's got an entrepreneurial spirit, but he's also got that heart to get in there and to make a difference. And Rajiv, I have been inspired by you. We've had some pretty great opportunities to work with some definitely some situations outside of our comfort zones, right? Reaching out to some folks that need some help in our community. And I love your heart. And it was just a matter of time getting you on the show. And I'm really grateful for the time you gave us tonight.
All right. So I'm curious about this, Rajiv. You mentioned that right now you have this passion for helping people, right?
Yeah.
And that passion has kind of grown over time. So talk to us a little bit about how you've got to where you are now as building that passion, and what brought you to this point where you've invested your time and your energy into helping others.
Yeah. So I was born in India, and I lived there for the first 18 years of my life. And so till the 11th grade, I was in India. And from pretty young, I think it must be like 9 or 10 years old, I've always had this ambition and this goal to be an engineer. It was actually in India, I wanted to be an electrician because that's all kind of I had the experience with. And, I used to break toys and do all this crazy stuff. And my dad, he was very cool. He encouraged me, and he'd get me things to help me out. He'd also tell me, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it, but that's a different thing. So I wanted to be that. And so I was very driven, and we finished school in the 11th grade. And then my mom, my sister, and I moved to the States, basically for me to continue education in the U.S., to be an engineer and go down that path. So part of this journey, I was privileged to grow up pretty wealthy in India. We had servants. I never went without food. I was a spoiled little brat, and so I lived with a little bit of a guilt, of knowing that in India, with all the poverty that there is there, that I, for some reason, had been chosen to live this life where, I went to the best school in India. I was able to come to the States, and all this stuff happened. So, from I think from my teens, I grew with this guilt, and going, okay, like what the heck? Why was it me? Kind of thing. And so I got a degree at Cal Poly. I was here in Reading for 3 years. Went to a Bible college and went to Shasta College, and then went to Cal Obispo and got a degree in engineering. Was blessed with a really good job down there that I did for 8 years, and the company that I worked for ended up getting bought by Intel, and just did really well with stocks and financially and stuff. And at the peak, this was in 2000. At the peak when we got bought off, our company's at 240 employees. And by the time I left in 2004, we were down to 60 employees. And I'd been through 4 different layoffs. And by the grace of God, I didn't go through any of them,
Right.
And I had a buddy of mine who was also an engineer, and he quit his job a year before. And he kept on hunting. He's like, hey, let's go for a bike ride, in Europe. And I'm like, sure. But, just the way I was brought up, that was not something that was, ingrained in me. And it took me a whole year, to end up making that decision and to quit my job and get, me and my buddy got a bicycle, and we biked from London to the bottom of England to a place called Plymouth, and then we took a ferry all the way to the northern part of Spain and biked all the way down the Pyrenees to Barcelona.
What's the purpose there? Just sense of adventure? Just
go. I was tired of, I was making good money, and I was tired of being an engineer, and I just wanted a break. And the joke at that point was that I was trying to find myself, and Waldo, where's Waldo, was kind of the whole thing that kind of went around with people, like, oh, where is he, and so anyway, so this 3.5 week trip. What happens is I'm supposed to be in Tibet. I'm supposed to be in Thailand. So we do this trip in Europe, and then I go and travel in Europe a little bit more. End up going back to India, which I hadn't been back to India in 13 years because we'd been here in the States, and just with the visa stuff and all, it took me 20 years to get my citizenship. But because of that whole time, I couldn't travel out to the U.S. And so 13 years, I go back to India. And I am supposed to be in Phuket when the tsunami of 2004 happened. And my sister, my dad had a house in the UK at that time in London. And my sister is like, hey, let's go and do Christmas in England. And so I'm like, sure, and I was kind of upset because I'm like, I wanted to go spend some time in Thailand and Phuket and stuff, and I didn't. And the night I flew was the night the tsunami happened.
Wow.
And I could have been, and Phuket was one of the worst places hit in the tsunami.
Right.
So here I am, and this is kind of part of my selfishness. I'd spent a whole bunch of money, on myself during this time. And part of the thing was, hey, maybe if I do 1 month of mission, it'll pay for all my, all the money I wasted on myself. And so here I go, okay, I could have died. What can I do to kind of help, with the guilt again, but also just do something good, And so I ended up trying a whole different organizations, the Red Cross and some other places, and they're like, oh, if you have any experience, you can come help, And I had some friends in Sri Lanka that ran a mission organization over there. And Sri Lanka was one of the second worst country to be hit.
Okay.
By the tsunami. And so I spoke to them, and they're like, we need somebody to design websites. Like, can you design websites? I'm like, sure, I'm an engineer. I can design a website. I remember buying this book, Website for Dummies, that I read on the plane, down there. And by the time I finished that month, that website looked like it was made by a dummy too. It wasn't my best work. But anyways, during that time, I ended up helping with, there was a project for building 350 houses and helping a whole village of 350 families. And we got $3.5 million for that. And I helped write this proposal. And so they asked me like, hey, you want to come back and help with this? And so I came back to the States, sold my house, put stuff in storage, and ended up living in Sri Lanka for 3.5 years.
Wow.
And part of my backstory was my dad was always in social work, and I'd seen him beg for money and this whole thing, and I had made a vow that I would never go into social work. I saw the negative pieces of that, and and that was something that I didn't want to do.
Right.
So I go there, and I realized that I just really, really enjoy this stuff. Just helping out these people was just a cool thing. But I also realized that in the nonprofit and the social work, that if you don't have a heart for it, you don't have a passion for it, that it's very, very easy to go the wrong way and have the wrong motives and end up, because just in terms of the accountability isn't as much, and it's just it's all about stories, and there's some stuff that you can very, very easily get misled, And so I was there for 3.5 years, and I had to come back to the States every 6 months because of my visa. And so every time I came back, every 6 months, I'd go and stop in some country and go travel there for a couple of months, and then, and come back. And this last time I decided to travel in China. I was there for a month, China and Tibet. And it was just a kind of a prayer. I'm like, okay, God, if you want me to go down this line, you have to give me the heart for this, because I understand if I don't have the heart for it, that it's not going to go in that direction.
Can I stop you really quick? Can I stop you with you?
Yeah.
So did you always, did you grow up with faith? Was faith an important aspect of your family?
Yeah. So I grew up. Yeah. My mom and dad became Christians, I think in their late teens or early 20s. And so I grew up in church and, did that whole thing. I didn't get serious till I was 21, actually, in the U.S. And there was a guy that came and spoke to our church, and the message was, "Quit playing with God." I'm like, I think you might be talking to me there.
So you're 21. You're 21, and you have a moment where it's starting to get real.
Yeah, because I played the whole. This was the days when I used to wear suits and go to church on Sundays, and then the rest of the week, it was a different person, And so I kind of played that for a long time, and it was only till that happened when I was 21 that changed. So
when you ask that, when you say that prayer in Tibet to have your heart changed, is there a moment that you can point to where you say, hey, this is where I really felt like there was this transformative moment for me after feeling drawn to that work?
Yeah, I think it was a process, but that was a time when I made a decision and said, okay, I got to stop doing what I'm doing and change the course I'm going in, and it wasn't like boom, and I'm heading in this direction.
Sure.
It was a gradual thing, but it was an intentionality that, hey, that I am made for a purpose, that there is a God that loves me, and that life could be a lot better if I lived it, in conjunction with him. So there was that, but it wasn't a, but I remember, I can still remember the time when you spoke. It was the guy called Tim LaHaye, and he was a veteran. He had he was in a wheelchair, and but I just remember that message, and and I felt that God was talking to me and saying,
that's awesome.
Time to be serious about it. And I actually made a commitment to faith when I was 6 years old, in the UK. And it was another crazy story, and I remember that too, but I know that just life got serious for me in my faith, at that age. And then, there's, I don't know how life goes with you guys with faith, but with me, it's been this up and down journey thing, and so that was a peak, and then I went down, and, and it continues going in that direction, and it's a thing of continual changes in your path to get you focused in the right direction.
But I would actually say that in my life, I'm a little worried about the peaks, because a lot of times for me personally, I don't know if I let my guard down, right? Or when you have those spiritually powerful moments, watch out, because I think we get a little big for our britches, or we think we know something, or we think we got something, and then we're reminded of the frailty of of our mortal existence, right? And just
Yeah. No, it's yeah. So so we ended up going. I forgot what the path was. So yeah, so I'm in Sri Lanka doing this thing, and I'm in Tibet now, and I like I had a heart for people, but it wasn't. I think it was more out of guilt than out of a passion, out of something that was like the true reason for doing it. And I'm telling Mike about this, but I was in Tibet, and Tibet has just major oppression. It did at that time with the Chinese, and it was just, it's sad because the Chinese were trying to make a life, and they had an opportunity of a new country that they could try and get better. As a result, there's a lot of repression with these Tibetans. And I remember reading somewhere where they said that, especially girls in Tibet, that their likelihood of them going to prostitution is extremely high because schooling was really difficult for them and they weren't given much opportunity. And I see this girl, we're having like some tea in the morning at this cafe, and I see this girl just really articulate, and she speaks English, just a beautiful smile, was about 9 or 10 years old. And she, I see her and I look at her and I realize like her future or her destiny, like, is heading in this direction that's just really painful. And something just kind of hit me during that time. It was also a process because when I traveled in Tibet, so I'd meet people and we travel as a group, and a lot of times, I was with people from Europe and Caucasians, and I was the only guy that was a different color, but all the kids would follow me around and they'd harass me and they'd go, give me money, give me food and stuff. And they wouldn't bother everybody else, but they would somehow, and God used that whole process. And then this girl looking at her in the eyes and realizing that, man, like her destiny, like where she's heading, like if nobody stops it, she's in this train going down this road that's going to lead to destruction and oppression, and that was the first breaking point of my life, as to go on, okay, hey, and then it kind of hit me like, okay, the reason why I have so much, the reason why I was given so much is that I can help people that don't have it, and like the switch came on and get, okay, it's not a thing of guilt, it's a thing of, okay, hey, you've been given much, so you can help people that don't have it, and that was the start of this journey. That was in 2007, and then 2013 my dad died, and yes, it was a really cool story because there was a couple of hinge moments during that time. The first thing was this buddy of mine saying, hey, let's go for a bike ride. It just, it was a complete selfish, there was nothing at all that was, whatsoever good in it. It was just a thing of, hey, I'm tired of working, let me go and travel the world and do some stuff. And that was one hinge moment. And then, the other moment was, with this girl and realizing that something, that I was made for something more, so yeah, and that was just, this, as an engineer, I wasn't a bad engineer, but I used to go to work because I made money, and that was my passion. That was my, like, I went there for a paycheck, I liked what I did, but there was nothing else behind it, and when I went to Sri Lanka and I ended up like running this organization for 160 people, like a $3.5 million budget. I had never managed anybody, but like I was so alive, and I like, okay, this is what I've been created for, and not, yes, I have skills in engineering, but this is kind of who I am, and that was kind of a cool thing. And I think I'm kind of rambling around this.
Let me pick on a word. You use that word destiny, and I've been thinking about agency and determining by decisions the course of our life, and I'm touched by that story of that girl in Tibet, and I'm struggling with that, right? I'm struggling with like that there are oppressive places where if I sat down with that girl and said, no, you can choose, what would she say?
She'd say no. They don't see it, and a lot of times, I think, Mike, even when you went to my school in India, you see some of those kids, and you see you see poverty, you see people in that situation. I think it's true for us as well too, in a different situation. I think a lot of times, when vision is all about looking past your circumstances and your situation, and I think the lower you are in the mud, the lower you are in terms of oppression, the less you can see past, your thing, and I think for her, like that's where she was heading, and destiny is the wrong word to use. I don't know if it's the right word or not, but that was kind of her direction.
Right. No, I get it.
Yeah. You know what I love, Rajiv, though, is this, as you're telling this, kind of going through this timeline of events, it's, it's sort of the evolution of your faith, your passion. And we go through these experiences in our life. And when we're in the middle of these experiences, it's hard to determine why we're there, right? We're just sort of getting through it. We put our head down sometimes and we just kind of grind through it. We get through on the other side. And I love that you're able to be introspective. You're able to look back and say, hey, let's connect these dots and let's see how this has influenced me and put me in a position to kind of change my direction. I love that. And I think that's what life is about, right? Is that we go through these things. Some of them are great. Some of them are terrible. But the accumulation of those events put us in a position to really kind of catapult ourselves to a different level. It's
only when you look back. And I think Steve Jobs had this, he did a commencement speech at Stanford, and he talks about how, the things that happen. What's that?
Connecting the dots,
but it's when you look back, because it was a great time, but it was also a bad time for me during that time, because I had spent 6.5 years funding myself. I used up all my savings. At the end of 2010, I had to file for bankruptcy because I had the stock market crashed. I lost a bunch of money. House values over here. I bought a house for $180,000. Ended up giving it for $50,000. So it was a tough time. And during that, I had no idea what the heck, I'm like, okay, what am I doing here? Did I just waste 6.5 years of my life? What happened, and then that was 2010, 2013, my dad passes away and I have a school in my hands. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
Well, and that's actually where our paths cross. He comes up to me. I'm a superintendent principal at a small school here in West Reading, and Rajiv's a parent at the school. And he comes up to me and says, hey, something to the effect of like, my father just passed away and I'm an electrician. I'm an electrical engineer by trade, and I just inherited a school. Do you have a minute? And all I heard, honestly, Tyler, and we've talked about this before, all I heard was India. And for me, and Rajiv, I've even shared this with you, my why is that I'm trying to help as many people as I can in all the ways that I can, as long as I ever can. And when you hear India, that denominator just got really big, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, you have a school in India? Yes, let's meet on a regular basis. So basically, I would share with him some of the things that we were doing at our school, and he started to kind of implement some of those things in his school because he took it over. I mean, he now has a school, right? And so then, what a joy it was working with you. And then the day you came to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to India. Would you like to go?" And I was like yesterday, let's go, let's do this. And it was, Tyler, man, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, you've told me about your experiences there. It's fantastic, man.
Yeah, and just the things that you learn and the things that you see, and bless the people that are trying to make a difference in these neighborhoods, right? This is not United States of America by any stretch of the imagination.
This is the crux of the show, Mike, right here. The whole point of us sitting down together with Rajiv and with anybody else that sits here is to talk about how can we impact change, right, or affect change on ourselves and on those people around us. And on top of that, not only how can we affect change for others, but how can we be open enough to let others affect change for us, right? Yeah. And I think that's the whole thing. And I think if we have that mindset that, one, I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to take in whatever, whoever I'm with, what they have to offer. And two, I'm willing to implement some of those things into myself so that I can help others get where they need to be. I mean, that's the whole point of this, right? So it's, I love that journey that you're talking about, Rajiv. I love this idea that right. We talk about destiny when you say, well, maybe that's a wrong word, but sometimes I think that we're putting each other's paths for a reason, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And think about all the interactions that you've had in your life, both positive and negative. Like I look at those all the time and I think, when I'm in the middle of that negative interaction, I think, this is terrible. But I get a little space between me and that, and I look at that and say, man, I learned so much from going through that, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say process and change, because it's almost like that pickling, right? You take a cucumber. I love me some cucumbers, but it's ironic because I don't like pickles, right? But like you take a cucumber and that cucumber goes through a process and it becomes something different, right? So Rajiv, when you said, hey, that moment, I'm hearing that speaker and I felt like he was speaking directly to me. That's all part of that process. And I love the journey. And we talk, Tyler, all the time about joy in the journey, right? And like, I'm listening to Rajiv, but I'm thinking of George Bailey, right? Like, we're having amazing growth and other aspects of our life might be falling apart.
Yeah. Typically, isn't that how it goes? Right? I mean, isn't that the way it works, unfortunately?
Yeah. But I think, Tyler, to what you were saying, I think, I think what's important, I think this is kind of part of one of my fears as well, I think, is that, I think there are paths that intersect, and it required me to ask Mike, to get out of my comfort zone. Right. And it took Mike to in his value system to go, okay, hey, and make a decision that enabled our paths to cross, that then took Mike and me in this crazy journey, 5 years or 4 years down, later, but it was,
I can point to, I mean, it's not just, okay, Mike took a field trip to India, right? Yeah. Like Rajiv, you've left some impressions on me, and I'm, like Tyler was saying, right? I'm hoping to be of influence so that others can learn from me, but man, I'm learning from other people. And Rajiv, I'm thinking of a lunch, right? Where you invite me to lunch and I'm a busy site administrator and I'm like, I don't think I can get away. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get away. And so I got off campus and we went and had Indian food, ironically. And, that lunch launched into something we've been dedicating the last couple of years to, right? Trying to work with at-risk youth and trying to make a difference here in our community. So, you're right. I think that the key, when we look at the purpose of this show, when we talk about the richest men in town, we want to master those intersections.
Yeah.
When we do intersect with those people that God has put in our lives, we want to master the opportunities there, right? And I really appreciate having you on the show, because you're giving us, Tyler, we've talked about the universality of truth. We've talked about truth being truth here, where you're at. I could get in a plane and fly on the other side of the world, and truth is truth is truth. And hearing Rajiv talk about how he's finding truth by seeing a small girl in Tibet, that just magnifies that in my mind.
But back to kind of what you were saying, it's small steps. Like if I had gone to Tibet and seen that girl, 2 years before or 3 years before, right, it wouldn't have made a difference. You know what I mean? But it is those small things. And like for my story, like I believe that I was really like, it was not a privilege, but it was a gift that I was given, because nothing in my initial journey was to do with any kind of altruism, right, or, it was totally selfish. It was all about me.
Well, how many people find a relationship with the Savior through a girl they have a crush on, right? Or through sports held at the church building, or whatever. I think that a lot of times we're not necessarily going to be held accountable for why we showed up at the meeting.
Right. And I'll go back to this theme that, we've talked about this idea of just remembering and being able to sort of recall transformative moments in our lives. Right. And when we're on this journey, I love how, like, you mentioned, hey, when I was 6, right. And then I was in this other place and this guy he's given this speech and it touches me. And I think that when we're on the path and we're sort of letting pride kind of melt away from us a little bit, right? It's being chipped off through the journey that we're going through. And then we start to recall these moments that have hit us to the core. And that's the moment, right? You're sitting in this cafe and there's this little girl and all of these other things kind of come rushing back. And it creates this opportunity for empathy and compassion and mercy and just saying, hey, I got to do something. Like, this is no longer about me. And that's a powerful moment that you've described, and and I say moment, but really it's a powerful journey, right? Yeah, I love that.
But it's almost like that's the match, right?
Yeah.
You've got a bonfire, and
Totally.
That's the match.
Yeah.
In that match moment. Hey, Rajiv.
Yeah.
What would you say to that girl?
Now or
yeah,
at that
now. What's your hope? What is your hope when you see a small girl in Tibet? What would you say to her?
Well, I think that's a difficult question, because I think, like, you don't want to give her false hope. You need to let her know that there is out. But I think part of that, I think you don't just tell her. You need to kind of go and pursue and figure out what that out is as well. Because I think you can't let somebody that's in a deep pit and say, hey, if you look up, you'll see how you can get out of there, but not help them get out. Because they might see it, but if there's no way they can get out of it, then what you've told them is there's no help. But I think in terms of kind of my core beliefs, in terms of who I believe a person is, in terms of the fact that God made that girl for something bigger than that, and she has a purpose, and and she has something that she's been made for such a time as this, and she has value and all that stuff. I would do all that, but I think if I just left at that, like, that would not be right for me. I think I need to do more, and that's yeah.
You know what else I love about that, Rajiv? I mean, we could talk about this all day, I guess, but I love the fact that, right, you're in this cafe, you see this girl who, I don't know, what'd you say? She's 10 years old, somewhere around there, right?
Yeah.
Right? Somewhere around there. And that vision of that girl, I think, helps propel you to a different place as well, right? So think about that, how much influence she had unwittingly, right, in that moment. I just think, man, life is a powerful thing if we really dissect.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason, I think, why, like, they say, like, depression, like, the the way to cure depression is to go and help people. Because I think,
for sure.
a lot of times, we don't realize this, but when we look past our stuff and we try to help somebody else, there is much more fulfillment. And I think, like, the whole altruism, I think the whole thing of helping people, I think, and this is, we can get into I do have interesting philosophies about life, but I believe that all our, like, not all, majority of our decisions are selfish, and I think even the whole thing of helping somebody, the reason why you do that is because it brings joy to you. There's not many decisions that you do, if you isolate it, where it isn't to do with the fact that it gives you pleasure,
Right.
So there's actually a book called Christian Hedonism, where this guy talks about the fact that God actually created us for seeking pleasure, so, but anyways.
Yeah, I think when I hear you speaking of your experiences, Tyler, our conversation about compassion comes up. Right, like, I'm not okay watching this and not doing something about it. Right. And having that experience where you realize that the things that you've been given are given with the intent that you would do something about it, that you would give back. Right. I think also too of the power of the gospel. Only the gospel can really bring about the changes that we need in this world. I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that that's really the answer to a lot of the problems and the unrest that we're currently experiencing in our own country, right?
Yeah.
And Rajiv, you're feeling that. I can't even imagine the conversations you're having in your home right now.
Yeah. I think it was my daughter, and her mom was talking to her about this unrest and talking about stuff, and she goes, does that mean that if I go out that people are going to like me? And this is an interesting thing, just kind of where I've been. It's just been this last couple of weeks that I have realized that I'm a man of color, and I've been blessed.
What do you mean by that? If you don't mind me just stopping. To me, you're stating a fairly obvious fact. So what do you mean there?
So I have never really faced oppression because of the color of my skin. I've had people make fun of me, when we first came here, like the whole 7-Eleven store, and and you have camels and all that stuff, things were made fun of. But I've never feared my life because of the color of my skin, And I talked to my mom about this. In India, I actually had more people make fun of me for my color of my skin than I had in the U.S.
Really?
And for something, I don't know what my mom did, but that's never been an insecurity in my life. And that's what I say that, I just realized I was a man of color. Like it's never really affected me. When I go and talk to somebody, I can go, oh, I'm talking as a man of color. Like it's there.
Sure.
Everybody sees it, but it's not in my forefront. And whatever my mom did, and bringing me up gave me that security in that, So that's when I say that, it's just taken me this last few weeks to realize that I'm a man of color, that there is, unfortunately, there are some people that will look at me different because of the color of my skin, and I think this kind of came up with, Mike, this, my son was teased for the color of his skin a year ago at 6 years old, and by another 6-year-old, and called him brownie, and they kind of laughed at him. And all of a sudden, the race thing became a much bigger issue because now it's my kid, there is that thing. But I just, I think to kind of the positive piece of this, I think it's exciting to see what's happening in the U.S. and around the world with people about this whole color of the skin. There's a conversation going on, and and again, I have not felt the oppression, but I know there are people that have, and the fact that people are talking about it, I think is just, it's exciting because at the end of the day, again, it's selfish. My kids, I want their future to be different. I want them,
right.
For people not to look, at them for the color of their skin. I feel really bad for my son and my daughter because, they've never been to India. They don't know, anything about that. And if they had people make fun of them, the comments that I did when I came, they wouldn't know what to say, because they don't know, much about India, And so, I am excited, and as part of that excitement, I am really, really excited to see the church, take a stand and have people that stand up and say, hey, that there's an issue. It's not all over the place. I'm not, not everybody does it, but there is still an issue, and we need to have that conversation, and see what that leads to, and I think that is just really, really exciting. I remember they used to say that Sunday mornings used to be the most segregated time in the U.S.
Crazy.
Because of churches and the whole thing. So I think it is an exciting time, and it's exciting because I can see that positive stuff can come out. It's an opportunity, It's like the soil is all fertile, everything is all set up and ready to go to where if we're intentional about it, that proper change can come through it. So.
Well, I think that intent is key, right? And I appreciate your thoughts there, Rajiv. And I know that's probably a pretty raw topic these days.
It is, and it's crazy. I've been like, that's where my first response, Mike, when you sent me this thing was, that's all I've been thinking about, is this, this kind of what's going on, and I never cared about it, and all of a sudden, like, it's brought up in me that something that I must have suppressed or whatever it was, and I think because I have kids, I think it's a bigger deal. I went to a protest over here in Reading a few weeks ago. And I was actually scared to go there. And part of the thing was I didn't have my ID with me. I'm like, okay, here I am, without ID at a protest, like I had fear. And it's like, it was ridiculous because I think part of it just being focused on all this stuff, but I am excited. I just, and it's just very, very cool to see people like make a stand and, to be, at least to listen to, to have conversations. And I think that's where it happens. The things, this stuff happens all over the world. I was looking at holding, Rwanda. People were killing people because of the size of their nose. And it's just unfortunate. People are evil, and we have stuff in us, and and we'll do whatever it is to make us feel better about somebody else. So, but it's an exciting time.
Right? If we don't change. Yeah. Hey, Tyler, I'm going to read this thing, and I need you to sound off on it, okay? And Rajiv,
I'm happy to do that.
And Rajiv, you can as well, because it kind of lines up with what we've been talking about. The Lord works from the inside out. The world works from the outside in. The world would take people out of the slums. Christ takes the slums out of people, and then they take themselves out of the slums. The world would mold men by changing their environment. Christ changes men who then change their environment. The world would shape human behavior, but Christ can change human nature. You believe that?
Absolutely. I think the sad thing is, right, is that we as a people in general, we want to put labels on people, right? We want to put people in boxes and say this is what this person is and this is what that person is. And what I love about that quote that you just read is that there is no label, right? We can be the masters of our destiny. We can make change happen. And I think the key to that is looking at something bigger than us, right? And seeing, Rajiv, you touched on this actually a couple times. You said, I saw that girl for who she was, right? She was created by God and she was there. And I think if we looked at people in this the bigger picture of things, boy, would there'd be no boxes, right? We would destroy those things and we would just be a people pushing in one direction, right? And I believe that. I really believe that if everyone would take a step back for a second and try to look at the big picture, and in my big picture, there is this idea of a creator that's put us here for a purpose and created all of us, right? And that we're all on equal footing. When we draw it all the way back, we're all on equal footing. And if we had that vision, boy, how quick would we be to help every person out, right? Yeah. I love that quote, Mike. I think it's great.
Because we'd see ourselves, right? We'd see ourselves in the beggar.
Yeah.
We'd see ourselves in the crippled. We'd see ourselves in the poor.
And we'd see the potential of the beggar, and we'd see the potential of the cripple, right? I mean, that's really what it's all about, is that if we can see past the circumstance or past the label and say, this is who this person really is. I mean, that's a big deal, right? And we've all been there in some way, shape, or form. In the box, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I think we all have prejudice. We all have, we're always sitting there going, that guy, and putting it, like I had a prejudice, with at-risk kids before, to be true, and homeless people. Like, that was something that I viewed them totally different, Then once we did our program and we interviewed, homeless people, and we dealt with some of these kids, I was I worked at juvenile hall for 2 years as a mentor, and to see those kids, like, if I saw them on the street, I'd run the opposite direction, but to realize, man, these kids all have stories. They're all, individuals. And I think that's part of the whole thing. I think with all of us, when we see somebody that's different to us, that fear of the unknown again, is what causes us to have the prejudice and, and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. And if we can see people
really,
for their eternal potential, right? That's that's a big part of this, I think.
Yeah. Rajiv, on the subject of mentoring, I reached out to Will. So Will was a kid in our program, working with him, trying to mentor him and support him. And Rajiv, I know that you struck up quite a friendship with Will. And I just said, hey, man, I'm going to have a guest on my podcast, right? I'm bringing Rajiv in on the podcast. And, just tell me, what do you think of Rajiv? And he says he's grateful for your friendship, for your mentorship. Rajiv's always been willing to put himself out there and help people. And Will thinks you're very brave for coming to our country from his own, right, to do the work that you're doing. So, hey, take that feather and stick it in your cap, because there's a lot of stories out there, Rajiv, like that, where you do see people, you see the good in people, regardless of the circumstance that they're in, and that's why you've got a lot of people that love you, man.
So on that note, maybe I'll serve up a softball for you, since we just had Will give a glowing endorsement of Rajiv. And
but I got to tell you, Tyler, like, he's not kidding. Like, these kids came from some background, right? These kids came from some situations, and our whole premise of our program was, we believe in you. Yeah. We want to give you a voice, and we believe that you can actually help us be a difference in this community.
Yeah. This is that eyeballing that 10-year-old girl in the cafe and giving her that opportunity to actually, and giving her that roadmap that you talked about, Rajiv, right? Not just saying, hey, you can change, but saying, hey, you can change, and here's how we can help you get there, right? Yeah. That's a powerful moment.
And it does work in the lives of these young people. And I think that's, if you cut Rajiv open, that's what's written on his heart.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Rajiv. Go ahead. Comment on it.
I think, I think that was there was a group of us that made that happen. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just you. There was a group of people, and it was a bigger community. But I think it was, again, I think community is so important, and I think you can do so much more when you have people like-minded, than just one person doing something, So I think, it was a journey. It was relationships. It was, it was a lot of stuff in place, that affected people like well. So, yes, sir.
So, Rajiv, what gives you hope these days?
So I think hope. So this is something that has been a little bit tough, because I think with where we are in life, looking, you see all this stuff with the coronavirus, the pandemic, and this riots and stuff, and finding hope, looking for hopes is, to be truthful, that is a difficult thing. But I think, at the end of the day, I have a God that is always going to be there, and who loves me, who cares about me, and is going to walk with me on this journey, whatever it goes, and I think, my ultimate hope is in him. There was a verse that I came across only like a year or 2 years ago, and it kind of blew me away. And it's from a book called Zephaniah, and it's Zephaniah 3:17, and it says, "The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In his love, he will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing." And that just kind of blows me away, that the God of the universe, with all my crap and all my stuff that I should be doing, he will rejoice over me, and I just take great delight in me. And I think that is the hope that I have, and I think with people that don't see God, or, for whatever reason have a misconstrued representation of God. At juvenile hall, a lot of them, because they have bad relationships with their dad, when you say, your God being your heavenly father, they associate that bad stuff, and they have this really negative connotation of a heavenly father. But when you realize at the end of the day that God, he loves us so much that he actually sings over us and rejoices over us. And I think that's the joy, at the end of the day, that the hope that we have, is that God is in the midst of all this. He cares about. You think of all, like the fact that we have how many senses in our mouth for taste, that he's into detail, that he, like every detail of our life, he really, really wants to be part of, and the fact that he loves us so much that he is there and he is with us is the hope. So, that's kind of spiritual hope. And I think, the fact that I think at the end of the day, I think there is hope that there will be change, I think in what's going on right now. And I think that, we've had stuff like this in the past in history, and there's been positive things come out of it. And I think that there's an opportunity, for the church and for people to make a positive difference through this. So
I love that answer. Thanks, Rajiv, for sharing that. It's fantastic.
How does what is being a dad teaching you about being a good man? Right, you got kids.
Yeah.
Give me some ages and talk to me about what they might be teaching you about how to be a good man.
Yeah, so I have 4 kids. I have 2 stepkids and 2 of my own kids.
High school graduate.
Yeah, graduate, 17.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
12, and then 7 and 5. And, I think the big thing is just realizing that my decisions and my actions have consequences, not only for me, but for the people, for the kids that I have, and so I think that kind of puts a level of responsibility, of accountability there that hey, that I need to make good decisions because there's consequences to my kids, for my kids to that, but a couple of weeks ago, and I talked to Mike, shared this with you, Mike, but one thing that my daughter, she's 5 years old, and we cuddle before she goes to bed, and she watches TV. A lot of times, I'll cuddle, and it's like, it's the same, some kid program, and so I'll be on my phone, doing stuff on my phone, and every time she will snatch my phone from me, and she'd say, Dad, we need to cuddle here, and I had this moment a couple of weeks ago. I went on a bike ride with my 2 youngest, with my 6-year-old and my 7-year-old. And Tyler, I turned 50. I have never experienced this moment before, but it was this moment of being present, and there was nothing, the future, the past, like for some reason, like my head, I remember all the smells. I remember the time with my kids, and I have never experienced that, at 50 years old, and it's like, oh my goodness, I think that's like one of the biggest things that I think, like my kids are showing me, is the fact that, it's like, oh my, life goes by so freaking fast.
Yeah.
So fragile, but yet we're all we're concerned about is the future or somebody else or something else. But it's like, oh my goodness, this moment over here, is a sacred moment, and like, I see my daughter, she, yanks the phone out of, and it's like, okay, this is someday she's going to grow up and it's going to be different, and I think, like, just being present in the moment and appreciating the moment, and I look back, and there's so many times that I just totally miss that, in relationships with, with my wife and whatever there's been, that I've missed those moments that I could have been present in it, and so that was, that's been a big like whack on the head, like, it's not, life is about what you have right now,
Yeah, I love that, Rajiv. It's funny. It's been one of my the things that I'm trying to focus on myself. Right. It's like that. There's all this talk about balance in life, right? And I think I've sort of come to this conclusion that maybe the more important thing is presence, right? When I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. When I'm with my wife, I'm with my wife, right? And I love that idea because you used the word sacred, and I believe that too. Those moments with family, man, that's a sacred moment that you want to hold, you want to be able to reflect back on that. And I just think that if we could have more of those, right? That's the goal, right? To capture as many of those as we can. I absolutely love that.
Well, I think of John right now. John Mayer, stop this train is going in my head. Right, stop this train. I want to get off and go home again. Can't take the speed it's moving in. You know, and I love the twist there at the end where he's talking to his old man, and his old man says, "Man, don't stop this train." Right, like don't for a second change the space you're in. Like enjoy it, live it. And actually coming back full circle, I think that's what my future self would tell me. If my future self came to the door and said, make this change, it would be put the damn phone down.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
Right?
Yeah. I think enjoy it, live it, and celebrate it, right? Because we think, you know, when my kids were really young, I would always think, well, when they're this old, I can do all these cool things with them, right? And now they're that old, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish they were 5, you know, because that was the moment. But and then sometimes I have this thought, like, man, I was talking to my daughter today. She's 20 and she's on a mission for our church. She's in Oregon, of all places, and she says, you know, I'm just listening to her talk to me, and she's so mature, and part of me is like, man, I wish she was here with me and young again. But then at the same time, I sort of want to celebrate who she's become, right? And I think that's the key. That I love that idea though of presence. I mean, no matter where we're at on that train ride, be present, right?
I mean, it's life is just so short. You know, it's like, you know, I think death's been pretty something on our minds with the whole pandemic and stuff. You know, and you know, it's just, you know, at 50 years old, as you get older, I think, you know, unfortunately, you don't get this concept when you're younger. You know.
You don't get a lot of things when you're younger.
You know, that was something that Steve Jobs, you know, in that same convention speech, and it's just because that was an important, something that kind of affected me. But he said, you know, when he found out he had cancer, you know, at that point, you know, he would ask himself in the morning if the stuff he had planned was the stuff that he'd want to do for the rest of his life, you know. And I think he made some, you know, maybe his choices were different and his passions were different, and, you know, and that's not my point. But my point was just the fact that, you know, like, how many times do I ask that question? Okay, you know, here's the stuff I'm going to do. You know, if I were to die today, is this the stuff that I want to do? You know.
When I turned 45 the other day, Rajiv. So I intentionally took out my journal and wrote a list of 45 things I wanted to do that day. And what a great day. What a great thing to do, right? Because I was actually intentional about it. You know, like it was kind of crazy. Like one was watch the sunset. When's the last time I stopped and actually watched the sunset? Another one was move the work of the Lord forward in some way. So it was, another one was swim with my kids, right? So I'm in a backyard swimming. I look out at the sky and I see that the sun is setting. So I get out of the pool, grab my phone, go out to the front, watch the sunset as I'm talking to somebody and ministering to them on the phone, right? And I'm thinking, why aren't I doing this every day, right? Being that intentional and seeking out those things that matter most, because we think we have a million tomorrows.
Yeah.
And we don't.
Man, and that international intentionality is such a powerful word, you know, because how often do we live intentional, you know, and like every decision, you know, and it's like, you know, the whole thing of being on Facebook, and you realize like there's no intentionality in it, you know. It's just, you know, but how much of my life is lived in, you know, and just in not being intentional about, you know,
in neutral, right? If you're in a gear, that would be in neutral.
Yeah.
You're going nowhere as you do that, right? Unless you're
going somewhere, it's steering out the right direction. That's usually how it works.
Unless you're liking the Richest Men in Town Facebook page on Facebook. Yeah. Then you're going places. Mike. You know, Rajiv, you mentioned the ups and downs of faith, the ups and downs of life. Everybody's dealing with something. How does Rajiv deal?
I drink a lot.
Hold on, I got to write that down, Rajiv.
Let's add that to our strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's not. Maybe delete that or whatever. But that's not.
We're not the best editors. I need to warn you.
Watch the podcast like end at that moment.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
No, I think so. There's a couple of different things. I think Get My Faith. I think is an important piece. In that as well, I heard this phrase a few years ago about treating God as a heavenly butler. And how that's wrong, and that there's more to him than being a heavenly butler, and unfortunately, when I'm dealing through stuff is a time when I'm the closest to God, and unfortunately it is, I think where I to some extent use him as my heavenly butler, and hey, can you fix this kind of thing, but that is one place that I do go. And then I just, I love music. I just love like jazz, classical, any kind of music. And so I think just listening to music, and that's a big thing. And going and drives, But I think, my big thing is, to turn to God and say, help, I screwed up, help me, whatever it is, and do that.
I'm with you on that music thing. I feel like music and spirituality are tied together. Right. I can find myself in a really good spot when I'm listening to the right things, and music puts me there pretty quick.
Yeah. We should probably put together a little Richest Men in Town playlist, right? We've got the bookshelf. We've referenced several movies through the episodes.
Yeah.
Probably putting together a little Spotify channel or something, because music really does it.
Yeah.
We were talking the other day, and we're like a couple of sappy old guys listening to some of these songs that just make us think about how quickly life moves and the seasons that we go through and where we've been and what we have coming. So
talking about so yesterday, I told you, Mike, I figured out how to play your podcast at twice the speed, and so I listened to your second episode.
I bet you we sound awesome.
but so I here I'm outside. It was a beautiful night last night. It was like 10 o'clock, and I listened to your episode in like 20 minutes, which was it was great. I actually listened to the whole episode, and then I like just prepared because I really like something that's important to me is like when I'm given an opportunity and I'm given a platform, like I want to make the best use of it, and so like I went tonight. There's a song called Oceans. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's from Hillsong, and it's this whole idea of walking out in the unknown and walking. I think it's taken from the whole Peter in the boat, that whole story, and just an amazing song. And I just after listening to your stuff and and just kind of thinking about the stuff that you guys talked about, and it was another one of those sacred moments, and the stars. It was just a beautiful night, and I think that was just really, really cool. But this whole idea of part of kind of who I am, and it's always been like it's been a prayer, but it's also been a fear, is that that I don't miss the opportunity. There were 12 disciples on that boat. Mm-hmm. Only one had the guts to go and ask Jesus, "Can I come out of that boat?" And that's where I think like life is lived to the fullest, is when you get past your fear, and you get off the boat and you walk on water, and you look at Jesus, and I think that's kind of something that is something that has always been something that I've wanted to kind of go in that direction, but also I am also afraid of failure, and so it's a balance, and a lot of times the failure, unfortunately takes prevalence of actually walking out in faith, and but it was just a cool moment yesterday, just after listening to you guys and and listening to that song. It was just a very, very cool time.
Well, I appreciate you letting us in on that moment. Rajiv, when I think about you, I think about you've mentioned Steve Jobs in that commencement address, and that comes to my mind a lot as I try to live my life. I was listening to Jimmy Valvano's ESPY speech. I go to this thing. This is like on my Hope page, right? So my Hope page is just it's an Evernote. It's whenever I need a lift, I've placed some things on that page, and I go there from time to time. And Jimmy V was dying of cancer, and he was I think he was being presented the Arthur Ashe ESPY Award for courage, and he gives an amazing speech about just what this life is all about. And I just want to read this. And they're giving him a hard time, right? Because the timer, he's giving this speech. He's dying of cancer, and they're still flashing a red light like, hey, your time is up. You need to wrap this speech up. And he's like, yeah, really, get out of here with that. I'm going to say what I need to say. But what he did say was powerful. He says, I just got one last thing. I urge all of you to enjoy your life. The precious moments you have to spend each day with some laughter and some thought, to get your emotions going, to be enthusiastic every day. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, nothing great can be accomplished without enthusiasm, to keep your dreams alive in spite of problems. Whatever you have, the ability to be able to work hard for your dreams to come true, to become a reality. Now I look at where I am now, and I know what I want to do. What I would like to be able to do is to spend whatever time I have left and to give maybe some hope to others.
Wow.
Dying words, right? I love those, and I'm just curious of what does that stir up in you guys?
Go ahead, Rajiv. What do you got? Follow that one up, would you?
No, it's just, it brings back like memories of being in juvenile hall and talking to some of these kids, and seeing like their stories and where they are, and like giving hope is so important, and I think like, even in our ZMAT stuff, I think it's such an important piece. And I think like that is, I think, our job, not our job, but I think it's our responsibility to look at people and go, hey, there is a hope. There is, apart from the spiritual piece, but just saying, you can make a difference. You can get out of where you are, and showing them, encouraging them through that, I think is each one of our responsibilities, because we all, and I think looking back at that verse again, like, you have a God, for, to that person that, you have a God that loves you, that, in your situation and that stuff is somebody that will rejoice over you, and that's the hope that you have, and knowing them for who they are.
Yeah. I love that. That whole idea. I love how Valvano talks about precious moments, and I think that sometimes, at least for myself, I have this idea that there's going to be this precious moment that comes up, right? And so I'm looking for that precious moment. And sometimes I look past the precious moments that I'm in the middle of, right? And so I love that idea of being more, we could use the word present. We could use the word intentional, right? Just noticing what's around me and enjoying that, right? Enjoying the little conversations, enjoying the, I have this digital frame on my desk at work that just scrolls through these photos. And sometimes these pictures come up and I start laughing out loud. I'm just like, that was it, right? Like that was a moment. And I just want to be, for me, to be more aware and more and quicker to recognize those moments, and to tell the people that are in those moments how much I appreciate those people. Right?
Yeah. Jimmy V would say, right? Laugh, think, cry. That's a good day. Laugh, think, be moved to tears, have the emotions stirred to tears. Tyler, I was on the beach, sunset, some Cam Jam, sun coming through the clouds, and it was like, what is this, heaven? Like, that's Torrey Pines. It's close.
It is pretty close. But, yeah, I mean, but I'll tell you what, in all honesty, that this conversation tonight is one of those moments for sure for me.
Yeah, Rajiv, I appreciate your thoughtfulness. I appreciate your heart. I love you. You're a beautiful person, and I know that you're making a difference to the people that you have in your life. So we've had some time together to build each other up, and I thank you, and I'm hoping that our listeners appreciate it. We always wrap this show up with the same question. The show's called The Richest Men in Town, right? So Rajiv, what does it mean to you to be the richest man in town?
I think moments like these, to know friendships, and relationships. And I think, but I think it's times like these where you have conversations and you have real stuff, and I've been blessed with people, my family and friends that love me. And, I think that's what makes riches. It's not, I don't really have much monetary, wealth, but I have friends, I have family, and I have a God that loves me, and that's what makes me the richest man, part of that club, but it is relationships, that's such a big thing. And I appreciate you, Mike, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you, Tyler, too, because it is, Mike, we've had some amazing moments, in meetings, and it's.
This is right up there with it, man. Right up there with it. So we raise a glass to you, a friend of the program. Come back.
Right.
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much. And you guys are doing an amazing thing. I think I've listened to all your episodes, and it's just, you've just, even yesterday, by listening to your stuff, made me think about things. And so appreciate what you guys are doing. And I can't wait till the 606th episode or whatever that episode that you guys, your next milestone is. But
well, I hope that this gives you eyes to see how rich you are, man, as you walk around. So. And
I will say, Rajiv, I feel richer tonight from spending some time with you. And San Diego is your home, right? You come down here, you have a home here for sure. So
thank you.
Hotel Tyler.
That's right. All right, Rajiv, have a great night. We appreciate it. It's been fantastic. It's been a total blast.
All right, thank you,
guys.
Hey,
let's get together soon, brother.
Yes. All right, see you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.